Welcome to Long Lost Friends. I'm Elizabeth Eve King.
And I'm Andrea Goyan. Elizabeth and I used to be in an improv comedy group together when we were 19, and then we lost touch.
A few years ago, we discovered each other and found we're both painters,
Performers,
animal lovers,
and Pilates teachers.
and naturalists.
Elizabeth, I'm not a naturalist. I mean, I love nature, but I'm not a naturalist.
That counts. The point is,
We're long
lost
friends. And we're both award-winning writers, fiction writers.
Speculative fiction writers. And after one of my short stories appeared in MetaStellar, we started the show.
So MetaStellar, for those of you who don't know, is an online magazine, and we publish science fiction, fantasy, and horror. And there's a link below if you want to learn more about us.
Today, we are so excited to have Gini Koch joining us. Gini is an incredibly prolific, multi-award winning science fiction, fantasy, and horror writer. She's best known, and here I'm going to get one of her covers up for the first of a currently 16-part series, but there'll be 20 at least, and maybe more, Touched by an Alien, which is also known informally as the Catherine Kitty Cat series, published by Dog Books. She has published an amazing amount of short stories, and she's made the most of multiple personality disorder by writing under a variety of other pen names, including Anita Ensal, Gemma Chase, A.E. Stanton, J.C. Koch, and J.J. Koch.
Wow. Well, we are so excited to have you join us today, Gini. And before we get started, do you have any pets you can show us? We got to see one of your dogs last time we talked, and this is the other one?
This is the other one. This is the little prince, aka Leo, and he is a sweetheart. They're not really clear that the camera is there. So, and
yeah,
the other one is desperately trying to get up for additional minutes of fame, but I can't. I can't hold both of them. I can't hold both of them, not expect like Cher to go over at this point. So this one's
very
Leo.
sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, you are adorable.
Very sweet.
So we were talking before about your audiobooks, and I know you had a few others that you might.
I do. So in addition to the news we announced here last time, which was that there will be an audiobook of Touched by an Alien coming from Skyboat Media later this year, and I'm really excited. I also have two other really good audiobooks out. One is the one that's up behind Elizabeth right now, which is The Legend of Donna, Natural Born Outlaws, that is the first book. When people ask what's the first book you ever wrote, that's it. And that's from Graphic Audio. And like I said last time, that's version 9.2.2 is what was good enough to sell. And Graphic Audio describes it as a movie in your mind. They have different actors playing different characters. So it's really, really cool. Oh, wow. And the other audiobook is Alexander Outland's Space Pirate. Andy Kaplow is the, and that's from Audible, and Andy Kaplow is the voice, and he does an amazing job. This was the first audiobook experience I had, and it really spoiled me because Andy called me, we went over voices, we went over everything. I mean, he was just amazing. And I love how it turned out. And it's so funny. There's one fan wrote to me and said, I just can't take this audiobook. The voices are so distracting. I'm like, well, I feel for you, but you're the only one because everybody else loves this. So if you don't like it, I apologize. You're in that army of one with this other gentleman, but I love it, and I'm really proud of them. So if you like audiobooks, please pick those up. Alexander Outland is by me writing as G.J. Koch, and Natural Born Outlaws is by me writing as A.E. Stanton. So
yeah, I just started listening to audiobooks this year, so I'm excited to add them to my list.
Oh, I love audiobooks. All my stuff is on audio. I love listening.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I'm so excited to have audio, and I know so many people love them, but when I'm in the car, I'm listening to music, and that is idea time for me, because I get at least 50% of my ideas from lyrics, from songs. And I can't trade it. I can't give it up for that. And then if I'm trying to do it, like I can listen to, and I listen to podcasts and such while I'm doing other work, and it's not a problem. But if I'm listening to my own books or anybody else's books, I'm just going to be gone, and I can't afford the time. So I'm really excited to have them, but the chances of me listening are really slim. So I'm always excited. It's like, I love doing it. I'm like, I wish I could.
I've been listening when I clean the house or cook, because I can kind of multitask. Sometimes I do get too involved and I have to go back because I've missed something, but usually that's kind of the perfect time for me to do it.
I do that with gardening or cooking or Pilates.
Sure.
When I do Pilates, I listen to either podcasts or books on tape.
Mhm.
Or when I'm painting, if I have a mural or something, or
Yes.
anything I'm painting, I can't listen to music, because if I listen to music, my body starts wanting to relate, and I can't listen to, it's really weird thing that way. I have to, but a lot of times I get better ideas when I'm listening to a book or something. Suddenly I have to stop because it's given me an idea. So
Interesting. Yeah.
I
So
knew a pianist who listened to other pianists while he was composing, like other piano playing, which seemed.
I don't know how you do it. I can't.
But
I need music with lyrics, because that's what helps me write. I don't hear it. It goes into the back. But like I can tell you, oh, I was listening to that band when I wrote this. I was listening to that song on repeat for a week when I wrote that. Those kind of things. So music really matters to me, and the music that inspires whichever name I'm writing under, or whichever series or short I'm writing, is not always congruent with what you think. So it's not like I listen to creepy music when I'm writing horror, for example. So.
yeah, I can't listen to music with lyrics when I know when I'm writing, because then I start to sing. My head starts to go to the lyrics.
yeah,
No, it just goes.
I can't either.
Yeah, no, I'm on the I must have lyrics. If it's just instrumental, I lose focus because I'm waiting for words, and I want to hear the words, and then I can ignore it. And sometimes I'll focus in and out, but mostly I'll ignore it. But
here we are. I mean, how different people work. I mean, that's so interesting,
Yeah, and what I listen to, I mean, I write in every genre out there other than literary. So I have mysteries and romance, as well as science fiction, fantasy, horror, paranormal, space opera, western. I mean, I've got it all. Dystopia, you name it, I've written something in it, and probably a lot more than just one something. But what I listen to does not necessarily fit the genre either. It's just that song at that time writes that thing. For The Disciple, which is the big story in The Disciple and other stories of the paranormal, which I wrote as Gemma Chase, which is a collection. I was listening to one song from The Fray over and over again. It has nothing to do with vampires, just FYI, and yet that's what that story's about. So but I need the lyrics too. I cannot do it without. I can honestly probably work in silence better than I can work with just instrumental. And and there's plenty of people that are like you. Oh my God, if I hear lyrics, I can't do it. Or if I hear the music, I'm moving. And you got to work. You got to do what works for you.
So that's sort of a great segue for what we wanted to talk about, which was some of your techniques or tips or thoughts for writers, some ideas on some new process maybe for somebody.
I have lots.
Good.
So the first thing I like to tell any aspiring authors or authors that are really just starting out or haven't made it enough is two things. One, and I needed this, so I know a lot of people out there need it. I give you permission to write. I give you permission to write. You have as much right to write as anybody else. And I had to be given permission. Phyllis Heman, who is a poet and a screenwriter and everything else, a very good friend of mine, she was the person who gave me permission to write. And she's why I wrote, because she gave me permission because I felt I needed it. And a lot of people
do that.
She told me I had every right to write. I had as much right to write as anybody else. I'm literally, exactly what I just said is what she said to me. I have as much right to write as anybody else.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah. And then the next thing, I didn't need this, but I know a lot of people do. I give you permission to suck. I give you permission to stink on ice, because for the most part, you will. I know we've said it before, and I'll say it again. The best thing for authors that's happened is self-publishing, but also the worst thing for authors is self-publishing. There are a lot of books out there that if the authors had merely been willing to be edited a little by anybody, they could be much better books and be selling a lot better. A lot of bitter people that I run into that are like, well, no one bought my book. Well, A, your book is unreadable because there's so many spelling errors, there's so much punctuation, nobody can read it. And two, you don't know how to market it. So that leads into the other most important advice that I think gets ignored a lot. This is a business. You need to treat it like a business. Everybody working in it is a business professional, and it is a business first, and it's your creative outlet second. So if you want to be even remotely successful in it, and you have to define what success is for you, but you need to treat it like a business. Just because you wrote it doesn't mean anybody wants it. Just because you wrote it doesn't mean it's right for that thing. I'm just going to say it. I've been rejected by MetaStellar. Did I like getting rejected by MetaStellar? I did not. Was not for us a good enough answer? It was, because it wasn't for them. Whether it was the editor at the time, whether it was the special call, whatever it is, my piece that I sent them didn't get accepted. Does that mean they'll never accept anything from me ever? No. But it does mean that piece at that time wasn't what they wanted. Okay? Maybe coming back around, they'll say, hey, even if we rejected it before, send it again, right? But that's on me as an author to find the right market, to write the right stories, so to speak, that go to those markets. And if I haven't, doesn't mean the story is wrong, but it does mean that I can't sit there complaining because somebody didn't want it. And that's true when you get to throw things up. So this is a business. You could have written the greatest book in the world, truly the greatest book in the world. And if you send it to an agent who does not rep that genre, they're not going to take it. If you submit it to a publisher who does not do that genre, they're not going to take it. They're not going to change their business model because you wrote a great book. If you're lucky, they're going to tell you, this doesn't fit us, but go over there, right? But most of them aren't going to do that. Okay, why? Because they're busy, and it's on you. It's not on them. It's your book, not their book. The same goes with marketing. It's all on you. Okay, it's always really been all on you. But in the olden days and the golden age that we, and the silver age that we look back at, other books did that. Yes, and lots of books floundered because their authors did nothing to promote them. Now, the best thing that you can do is write the next book. But if you've got a book out there and you're not promoting it, if you're not going to conventions, if you're not going to shows, if you're not doing anything, if you don't have an online presence, then you're not selling it. And as a side note, saying buy my book, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book is not marketing. It is annoying at best. It's spam at worst. Something that I've noticed a lot of authors doing, and you can always tell when people have bought the new How to Succeed in Publishing, because inevitably these people are not successful in publishing. It's just a gimmick. And one of the first things they tell you is befriend every other author you know and have them like your page. I barely can like the pages of people who are my closest friends. Okay, because if I missed when they asked, it's gone. I am not, Joe Blow, going to like your page. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to unfriend you. And that is every other published author. We don't know you. You aren't buying our books. We haven't paneled with you at cons. We don't know who you are. You haven't done anything. You haven't even liked one of our posts before you are demanding we like your page, and so forth. Facebook is a great social media tool. So is Twitter. But if you use them wrong, they become negative. So you really have to invest time and effort into the marketing. And by the way, if you hate marketing, then you really need to focus on being traditionally published, because they will still do more of it than you ever will. And if you are focused on self-publishing, you better love marketing, because it's all you. Every bit is going to be you. There will be no one else to fall back on. So those are things to consider. Related to productivity, which I know Elizabeth asked, is like, when will that show up? Oh, somewhere. I'll toss it in. Everybody has a different thing that works. You know, like we were just talking, music. Okay, I need music with lyrics or nothing's happening. I can do better in silence than I can do with just nothing in there. Also, I'm a linear writer, and I'm an extreme linear writer. I start with the title and then the first line, and when I get to the end, I stop. Okay, outlining is not something I'm comfortable with. Scene sewing, which is where you write your scenes just however they come to you, and then you put them in order and sew them together, is also not something I'm comfortable with. But you know what? I've had to become comfortable with them. Why? Well, when your editor says, this is great, but I need you to add something in, you now have to write a scene and sew it in, and that is scene sewing. And that will happen to you whether you're writing shorts, novellas, novelettes, or novels. So you end up learning it. So now I've learned how to be a scene sewer because I had to. Also, if you want to do work for hire, which I do, I've been in 2 work for hire anthologies. One was the X-Files, and one is the Predator anthology that is coming up, that you'll be able to, you can pre-order it now, and we'd all love it if you did, and will be coming up somewhere in the next months. We don't know.
Trying to find it.
It was supposed to come out in June. There it is. But you know, hey, I like the title. I like the cover roll. Predator was work for hire, and work for hire normally demands an outline. I've been very fortunate. Jonathan Mayberry was my editor for the X-Files, Trust No One, and Brian Thomas Schmidt was my editor for Predator, Eyes of the Demon. And both of them were willing to have me do what I would call a back cover blurb outline versus a real outline. And I'm ever so grateful. But not every editor is going to be like that. If you're doing work for hire novels, none of them will do that. You actually have to have an outline, that they approve the outline, and then you get to write your story. So I'm learning to do that because I want to do more work for hire. Work for hire is fun. When many moons ago, I asked Alan D. Foster why he did it, because he has, his own stuff and he's awesome. And he said, oh, well, haven't you ever wanted to play in somebody else's sandbox? I was like, oh, you're right. What a cool thing. He goes, yeah, it's cool. So I've wanted to do it since then, and it was fun to get to do. There are different restrictions, and you need to understand it, and there are different pros and there are different cons, and you need to understand that. If it's work for hire, story isn't your own. They own it. You don't own it. But you got to write it, you got paid for it, and you get to be in the cool anthology. So it's that kind of thing. I got to play in the sandbox. I'm so excited, right? So you have to, it just all falls back, and this is a business, and you must treat it like a business. In terms of productivity, you have to find what works for you. Test it out. You may think you're an outliner and you're linear. You may think you're linear and you're a scene sewer. You need to try it all out. Try out different POVs. Try first person present, first person past, third person limited, third person, omniscient. Try them all out. Find the one that sounds the best, not only when you're writing it, but when it's read back. When somebody else reads it, if they're stumbling, maybe you need to change your POV. A lot of times I'll start in one POV and realize about somewhere, now it's somewhere between, 3 pages or less. This isn't working. I need to change it. Or, I just switched. I started this in present tense and I just switched to past, and it was working so much better in past, and I'm going to go back and fix it. Orson Scott Card said, and it's right, that when readers read past tense as happening now and present tense as happening has happened in the future, and it's not logical, but it's true. So, but that affects, it depends on what your story is. So you have to play around with that. You also have to play around with what are your best hours. Now, if you're working and you have a family and you have a home to maintain, you're going to have to create those hours. I have a friend, Amber, Amber Holt, who I was like, I've forgotten her last name. When she was starting to write, she had 2 little kids, like kindergarten age or under. And she literally trained herself. If she had 5 minutes, she was writing. She had no luxury of, I'm going to read what I wrote. I'm going to think about it. It was just boom, right, boom, right. When I have an hour, I'll go through and edit. And she created a great career from that. She, because she could, because she did it. Okay. So you have to work in your hours. As you get more time to do it, more leisure time to do it in that sense, all of a sudden you still have to find your hours. It can't be, well, I'll do it whenever. If you don't give yourself some set time, what happens is those hours fly away. I'll do it later, and now it's midnight, and maybe you're awake, and maybe you're not. So if it's midnight and you have put off writing, well, you put it off. Now you're going to bed. So I've noticed that for me, the hours have fluctuated of what is the most effective. A couple of years ago, really the last, I would say the last 6 or 7 years, I'm writing from maybe longer than that, from 11 p.m. on, and then into the wee hours of the morning, 2, 3, 4. But I'm a night person, so I can do it. But recently, in the last year or so, I am far more productive in the afternoons. That's why our last show, my dogs were not really awake, because they're used to sleeping, because I'm writing and it's like, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. I'm not going to play with you. We're not going to do anything fun, until mommy gets up from this. We're not going walkies, that kind of stuff. So those hours have been more productive for me. Will that stay that way? I don't know, but I do know that I have to find those hours and I have to hold them as sacred, and no one else gets to interrupt those. Sometimes life will always find a way to interrupt, but I try to hold them as sacred as I can. There are tons of different techniques, and you kind of have to experiment and find what's right with you. When I first started writing, my critique partner and I would get on the phone, and this was usually when I was done with work on weekends, and then when I became a full-time author, it was just as soon as I got up, we'd get on the phone, we'd have a little bit of chat, and then we'd both start working. And we'd be on the phone with each other, and it'd be like type, which you almost forget you were on the phone. And then it'd be like, oh, I need a word for, what's another word for pavement, right? Or, oh my God, I just wrote this, you have to read it right now. Or, okay, I finished these 3 chapters, I need you to read them. Or, what do you think of this line, right? I got a tremendous amount done. Also, I skipped from project to project to project, and I am back to working better that way. So I have a superfan friend she has named herself rightly the official Muse Inspirer, and she has been getting on the phone with me 5 days a week, and just a couple minutes of chat. And if I'm like, I need the word for it, she'll research it. Or can you find out how many people are in how many speaking roles are there in Macbeth, right? And she finds it for me while I keep writing. And my output has been amazing, because I'm going back to something that I used to do. I used to hop from property to property, and I used to have someone in my ears, but kind of not in my ears. And my output's been wonderful. So Krista Stuckless is a goddess, and is the reason why I'm getting to do this now. But I had to really revert to get back to the output that I had in those days. And I need that output again. I'm tired of not having the output. Last show, you're like, you're so prolific. And I'm like, I feel so behind. You have no idea. I should be at 100 titles right now, not 70, literally. So it's all in how you look at it.
When you talked about your first person who was you got on the phone with, and were they also working, or were they just there being sort of backup for you?
Lisa DeVicki is my crit partner. She also does my covers that are self-published. She also writes. She's also a really great cook and a baker, and like super mom. And I write, so I don't know why we're friends, but but yeah, no, she was working too. She was either doing art or she was writing. We were both working. Krista looms. She weaves, so she is usually weaving while we're on. So it's something she wants to get done, that she can still stop if I say, hey, I need this help. So
Wow.
it's very nice, and it's helpful. So, and I'm very grateful. She's like, I'll do anything to get aliens like us out the door. So,
That's great.
That's wonderful. Now, is that how you started? How'd you start writing? Because you started when you were still working at other
full
things,
time,
right?
yes, with a young child. The voices in my head just got too loud. Oh, this actually is a great question because it relates to the advice. When I was 15, I was told, I was in college and I was told by a teacher who, even at 15, I knew was an idiot, that in order to write, you had to be able to outline. And even though I knew she was an idiot, she was a teacher, so I believed her. Outlining is wonderful for term papers and business proposals. So I used it in school and in my career. But if you're not a natural outliner, it is terrible for the creative process. So I would keep trying to outline. I had all these voices, I had all these dreams, I had story ideas, and all this stuff. And I tried to outline and I couldn't do it. And I concluded I was a writer, which was why I needed the permission. That I was not a writer, which is why I need the permission from Phyllis to be able to go and try again. And she said, you don't have to outline, just write. It doesn't matter. Just do it. Just do it, right? Nike, just channel Nike and do it. So I learned early, but didn't internalize until later, that there is no one right way. The only one right way in pretty much every creative effort is money flows to the creator. Money flows to the author, do not pay to play, period. The only other rule is that spelling, punctuation, grammar, syntax, and word usage matter, especially to agents and editors, but they matter to readers too. So that's more of a guideline. Know the rules you're breaking. You can break them if you know what they are and you break them well. Everything else, if someone says this is the only way, what they are telling you is that's the way they do it, and they are not creative enough to understand that you probably may not create in the same way. So my viewpoint is there is no one right way. You have to find the right way that works for you. And I can describe what works for me. And for some of you, that will work. For some of you, oh, I'm going to put on music and I'm going to spend my day and I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to talk with my bestie and you're going to get books. Okay. And for others, it'll be like, that's so much of a cacophony in my head. I don't know how that woman functions, right? Everybody's different. It's all along a spectrum line. No one is exactly the same. We'll fall into groups, but you've got to experiment with it. If your genre isn't working, I think I write science fiction and nothing comes out. Well, change your genre. Okay, try something else. Try something completely opposite of what you thought you wanted to do, because that might be what you wanted. I did not start out thinking I was going to become science fiction's funny girl. I didn't start out thinking I was going to write science fiction, period. Okay, that was not my intention. And yet 75% or more of what I write comes out science fiction, whether I want it to or not. It can be fantasy, urban fantasy with science fiction, paranormal science fiction, horror science fiction. And I mean, I can delineate where it's like, okay, that one's definitely urban fantasy, paranormal, right? That one's full fantasy, but 75% or more of what I write, if it's not in a series, if it's just, I'm starting it, it's science fiction. I did not intend that. Science fiction was one of my last come-tos in terms of reading. I started out in mysteries. Mysteries are my first love. And, and so it's sort of like, well, how did this happen? I don't know. And I don't argue with it. So you got to just roll. You've got to write, let the characters tell you what's coming out. When I was writing Touched by an Alien, I'd had the experience. I'm suspicious of anyone who has written enough who's never had a character talk to them or never had a character take over, because I had that happen way back. And the first time it happens is the most cool thing in the world. After that, you're used to it, and then you're kind of like, I'm waiting. When I started writing Touched by an Alien, it wasn't supposed to be, this funny science fiction with a strong romantic subplot. It was supposed to be a creepy, short, Moorish horror story. And the voice just did not want to do that. And I'm writing along, and in the second chapter, the other character's demanding to know what my main first-person POV character's name is. And she goes, My name is Catherine Catt, K-A-T-T, and before you ask, yes, my parents call me Kitty. And I literally stopped typing, turned away from the computer and said, Kitty Cat, seriously, Kitty Cat? And she said, my parents have a sense of humor, keep writing. And I swung back, and it was like I was taking dictation from Kitty. There were 2 points where the dark story tried to reinsert itself. One's at the midpoint, which is the, oh, it's not what you think it is. It's just that much worse, right? It is, but it's not. And here's what's really going on. And oh my God. Well, the horror story reinserted. And I wrote it and I read it. And I thought, well, if you've enjoyed the first 50,000 words of this book, the light, happy, funny book, well, screw you. It's not. It's all awful. Let's go bye-bye, right? And it tried. And I wrote another explanation that still hit every fact and was better. And then there's a point near in the last third of the book where there's a big battle scene, and Kitty and Martini are having a major fight. And during this time, Kitty gets taken over by the like his dead end who's inhabiting her. And I let that roll. And then I went, well, that is the ickiest thing ever, because now he's fallen in love with what? His aunt? How gross, right? Ew, ick. And then Kitty has no agency. I'm like, going bye-bye, right? Cut that, changed it around. It's all better, right? So you can let it ride, but because you are still in control, but it has to be the right voice you're listening to. You know, that was somebody else's voice trying to shove in a different voice. It was J.C. Koch's voice trying to shove in where Gini Koch needed to be writing this book, which is part of why book 17 came. And it's like, oh, this is so late, because I was struggling, and my oldest pen name is Anita Ensall, and she bubbled up to help. And it was fine, but it wasn't a Gini Koch book. And my editor was like, I can't publish this. This will ruin your career. We're not publishing Anita Ensall in this series, right? So I had to get Anita out and get Ginny back in, which has happily happened. And we're near the end, I promise. So I've been saying that a lot. So the fan base is thankfully not lynching me. They've been mostly been very kind.
Oh,
Right.
this is, I think.
Yes, that's book 16. Aliens Abroad is book 16. So those of you who haven't started the series yet, congrats. You've got 16 books to go through, and I might have 17 out by the time you're done, depending on how quickly you read. What excitement awaits.
What exciting. Do you, just out of curiosity, and this is a little off topic maybe, but do you see book 6, 17, 18, 19, 20?
Yes, that's actually a really interesting question, because I do. I see a few books ahead. Whenever I'm writing, so when I was writing book 1, which is Touched by an Alien, I saw what Alien Tango, Alien in the Family, and Alien Proliferation were going to be. And so I zoomed through, and about the time I was writing Alien in the Family, I saw what 5, really I was getting to 10 then. And book 5 and 6 and 7 I saw as I wanted, but then I'm writing 7 and I realized a couple of things. One, Jeff Martini, who is the hero, is too young for the next steps that have to happen in the series. And so I call my editor, and I'm like, he's too young, and everything we try to do makes him younger, not older, to fit in the continuity. And I'm like, I need a book in between this book and Alien Collective. And she's like, well, I don't know what it would be. I said, well, it'd be called Alien Research and blah, 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 and this happens. She's like, okay, tell your agent to send a contract, right? My agent's like, you can sell as many books like that as you would like. This is the easiest sale I've ever done in my entire career, right? So that's Alien Research shoved up and explained what it should be. So after that, Universal Alien, Kitty switches universes with another version of herself, because the series is in a multiverse, which you start discovering for sure in book 3, is confirmed in book 4, and then the multiverse becomes more and more important as the series goes on. So once I was there, I still knew what was coming. but I see like 3 or 4 books ahead. So when I was writing Aliens Abroad, I already knew basically what was coming. I've altered a little bit based on things that have happened, but right now, book 17, Kitty and 11 other people have been zapped into the steampunk universe right at the end of Aliens Abroad. And so Aliens Abroad story has closed, but they're not in Kansas anymore. And so they have to get back from there. And when they return home, they are going to find Earth is in complete disarray because the president and first lady have disappeared because Jeff and Kitty, spoiler, the series has been out for a while, are now the president and first lady. So they've got to rescue people. So book 18 is Alien Rescue. And then Alien Galaxy is book 19, and there are some places that they went in Aliens Abroad that they're going back to where there's some very scary, creepy things are happening. And then Alien Reckoning is book 20, and that is where Kitty in book 8 discovers that there is indeed a God in the machine, and he has a name, and he is on trial for crimes against the Black Hole People's laws. And I kind of nicknamed these books. So like Alien Separation, which is book 11, I call to myself, it's Kitty Carter of Mars, because she's on a very different alien planet. This is, Steampunk Kitty, book 17, and I call book 20 is The Devil and Kitty Webster. So, so he's on trial, and she is his defense attorney.
Wow. And do you know what book 20 is going to be? Is that now, that's the last book, or do you do like?
Well, some of that's a discussion with Daw. It's not when you're years late on book 17, you don't go asking about book 21 until you're handing book 20 in. That's a little tip. That's a pro tip right there. But get the other ones done and then ask that question. I can absolutely continue Kitty. There's several different spin-offs I could do. The one I'm the most interested in, I would call it's like my version of the New Mutants. So it'd be the younger generation, and not Kitty's children, but Lizzie and the kids of her age. And Lizzie is introduced. Well, sure, her origin story is in Mr. Dash Saves the World, but she's introduced in Alien Collective or Alien and Chief. She's somewhere in there, somewhere between 9, 10, 11, and 12. I think it's 12, but she's been around for me since book, just before after book 9. So, Lizzie has been around longer for me than she has been for readers. So, but she's the one that's going to take up the mantle. So I may do a spinoff. I've got it. That is a conversation with my editor way in the future at this point. Let's get 17 turned in, 18, 19, and 20 done and turned in, and then I can have that cheerful chat.
We'll see what's going to happen with Kitty, huh?
Wow.
Okay, well, thank you so much. This is
thank you.
Just amazing, but I knew it would be. I can't say I'm surprised. You're always just, your knowledge and willingness to share it is as prolific as your writing. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for letting us meet your doggies.
And you're welcome. Sorry, no cats came down, so.
I know you do have cats, though.
I have 2 cats as well. Yes, His Highness and
people watching, do be aware.
And His Highness sometimes comes down, but he is an old man now, and it's prime sunning time, and he's in the warm. And Fluffy Death doesn't come down for the likes of this, except she's been down once in 2 years of doing online things. She's been shut down. So.
But with a name like Fluffy Death, you may not want her down there.
She's actually a beautiful cat. She is, boy, is she a hunter extraordinaire. So if it's alive, she can kill
it. Just so long as she doesn't kill any books. We're
right.
Good.
No.
And we also want to thank Maria Korloff, who manages and puts us together and does MetaStellar, and Sydney Levinson, who does our editing for us. And thank you very much. We would be a mess without you. We're almost mess with you. So
Yes,
that's
sure.
so great.
Let's not forget too, we still have to do our best things.
Now our best things. Do you want
Do
to?
you have something, Elizabeth?
I do. I do have some things. I have a couple of things. Okay. They're really quick though, I promise. There's a certain kind of jellyfish. It doesn't actually have a common name, so I won't, but it's called the immortal jellyfish because when it gets a shockers thing, it can actually morph back into a little polyp. And it can keep doing this without, as far as we know, forever. Like, so you get an injury and you say, oh, I'm going to put my hand back to a 9-year-old hand, or my arm back to a 14-year-old arm, and so really it's immortal. So there's a lot of things out there that want to eat it, so they don't usually live past 5 anyway, but still theoretically it's immortal, and that's very cool. And then just to shake you up a bit, I've been swimming and snorkeling and diving a lot in California the last few. So I just want to show you a couple of my favorite nudibranchs, which are my favorite kind of sea slugs. This is a Spanish shawl.
So cool.
And this is a Rose Hopkins.
Oh, wow.
And they're
amazing.
Like, yes. And I thought this yeah, since it's so pink, right?
Totally. That's my favorite.
This is, yeah, isn't this? They're very, 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 very small. Yeah. And they eat things like, they eat stinging things though, and they digest it, but they take the little stinger part and they don't digest it, and they send it up to their tip of their little, they're called little, things, and so they can sting things too, which I think is cool. And imagine if you could do that.
That's crazy.
I mean, you could eat a jellyfish and then you could sting things with your fingers or hair if you were them.
Really
cool. And a new superhero is born.
Yes, exactly. That's really cool. Okay, so I'm going to just share. First of all, I'm going to say to Ginny, I too have been rejected by MetaStellar before before this all began back in the day. But I have also they have just taken a reprint of mine. So I have a reprint coming out. They take reprints. I recommend people send things to them because they're wonderful about accepting reprints. So I have a reprint coming out May 2nd called A Mother Knows. It's a micro fiction, very short, that was originally published in 365 Tomorrows. So that's my fun news.
Something in there was 365 Tomorrows. I know that publication.
Well, it's a little online magazine. So, Ginny, do you have something to share too?
I do. I found that I will be a symposium author at Gen Con and the start of August. And I know I'll be a panelist, but I just found out that I will also be running at least one workshop while I'm there, which is really exciting to me because it's my first time at Gen Con and they've been hugely welcoming. And this is the largest gaming con around. And it's in Indianapolis, and many hugs and kisses to Maurice Brodas, who helped me get on the radar there. And he's a wonderful author, and you should buy his books. But I'm really excited because I'm brand new, so them letting me do a workshop or workshops as well as be on panels is to me is really very cool. So I'm very excited. I don't know. I put up like 5 or 6 options, so I don't know which one you're picking, but I'll know soon enough.
And we'll stick a link below in the YouTube. There'll be a link below.
I know you guys will.
Right?
Yeah, you get a chance to go visit, please do.
Yes, please come by. I'm wearing in my pink sparkly hat, which
her pink sparkly hat. Yay, yay. Well, we want to thank everyone for joining us today, and please go ahead and like the video if you did, and leave comments because we'd love to hear from you. And you can subscribe to our channel and be sure to hit the notification button so that you won't miss an episode. And if you want to support MetaStellar and help us publish original fiction, go to our Patreon page, excuse me, and help us out there. We'd love to have your support. So thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, Ginny. It's been a delight. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.